That's it, we're live on YouTube's. It's Tuesday the 14th of May 2019. Good morning. So, I've been waiting, like many of us have, across the globe, 2 years. 2 years for this final season of Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, quite possibly one of the best TV shows ever. It's gritty, it's dark, it's hard hitting, it's got a tremendous story, so many twists and turns, you don't know what's going to happen or who's going to die next. Don't get too attached, is what I was told when I first started watching it. Now, I started watching it when season 3 was on, so I had to play catch up about a few years back, and I was told specifically, don't get too attached to any character. And this holds up, it really does, because there's characters in Game of Thrones that you think are complete arseholes, and then they can turn it around. Then you think, well, maybe they're not so bad. Then there's people that you think are not so bad, and they turn out to be arseholes. And then someone who you think's going to be in it for the long haul ends up dying in a horrendous way. So you can't get too attached when it comes to Game of Thrones. Now, season 7 ended the way season 7 did, with the White Walkers smashing through the wall, which was north of the border. Before anyone starts whinging at me, I want it to be brutally clear to you that it does say spoilers in the video title. So, you have been warned. So, you get through the first season. It takes a while to get into it. You watch the first season and you're brought to love one of the main characters known as Ned Stark. Eddard Stark, head of House Stark, is going to be in it always and forever. And he's a man of morals, he's a man of standards, and a man of moral value. And he's given the task of executing someone very early on in the first episode, who he had called a deserter, a man who had deserted a post called the Wall, part of the Night's Watch. And they manned the wall as part of punishment. They can never leave. They must guard the wall from whatever terrible monsters lurk on the other side. Now, this man claims to have seen the White Walkers. White Walkers are undead zombies with blue eyes that, they're nasty, yeah. But they've been dead for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. Dead. But they guard it. And this guy saw them and he ran away. And he stuck to his story. He told the story of what he saw. No one believed him. No one believed him. And then he was sentenced to death. And Ned was the one with his Valyrian steel sword to cut his head off. And he didn't want to do it, but he had to do it because it was his duty. It was just the way the law works. So there's that. And you think he didn't want to do it, but he had to do it, And you can understand the sort of turmoil that he was in. Bearing in mind this was quite a honest looking young lad, but he had to be put to death. Them's the laws. Anyway, you start watching season 1 past the first episode, and you start thinking, there's something to this. I'm going to carry on watching it. And then it flicks to and from the mainland in the west, which is called Westeros, and the island continent on the east, which is called Essos. For the first 3 or 4 seasons, maybe 5 seasons, it keeps flicking between Westeros and Essos, you see. And there's your number plate on YouTube, thank you very much. And basically what happened is, years and years ago, the Mad King who was a Targaryen, was dethroned, and he was killed by a man called Jaime Lannister. At which point Robert Baratheon sat on the Iron Throne and claimed the Seven Kingdoms. And he was then king up until the first season. Okay? Now, the main crux of the stories are, okay, so you've got the main kingdom, Westeros, and the king that had died, Baratheon, killed on a hunting trip. Okay? And then his son Joffrey was not old enough to be king. So he wrote a letter and gave it to Eddard Stark, who is now Hand of the King, right? The right-hand man, Hand of the King, you see. And because the Lannister family are a load of incest-loving assholes, they found this letter saying that Eddard Stark would hold the throne until such a time as their son Joffrey was old enough. But because the Lannisters, being what they are, they accused Eddard Stark of treason. Joffrey becomes king, and Eddard Stark is sentenced to death. At which point, at the end of season 1, with Eddard Stark's daughter Arya standing on a statue, we get to watch him lose his life by beheading. Now, that was such a massive build-up, and I remember at the end of season 1 shouting at the television, "No!" Like, literally. So he was the character, he was the man, you know. But it's Sean Bean all over. Sean Bean dies in everything, you see. So you get past season 1 onto that moment, and it's like, I have to watch season 2. Give me season 2. And that's pretty much what Game of Thrones has been like. Okay, for 7 years, that's what Game of Thrones was like, leaving it on cliffhanger after cliffhanger. And at the end of season 7, the White Walkers, with their newly claimed undead dragon, broke through the wall and tried pushing their way south towards Winterfell. At which point, there was supposed to be some kind of allegiance between all the realms or the kingdom of men, basically, to try and fight the undead. Now this is where I'm going to start getting annoyed with season 8. Okay, I've given you the rundown of season 7. I hope I've painted a good picture. Season 8, okay, bearing in mind I've told you this, I've waited 2 years for season 8. Okay, disappointed so far could quite possibly be classed as 2019's understatement of the year. Yes, I'm so far disappointed. Reconnecting, we're back. Bearing in mind, say that again, that a lot of these episodes are now over an hour long. Last night's episode 5, was nearly an hour, just over an hour and a half long. So there's a lot to try and cram in. Bearing in mind there's only 6 episodes where usually there's 10. So when I say I'm disappointed, Game of Thrones has made out the White Walkers and the Night King to be the biggest baddie ever. Bran Stark, the crippled kid, who was pushed out of a window for watching Jaime Lannister fuck his sister. Him. He became the three-eyed raven, who was also a warg, who could control animals, see past, present and future, all at the same time, while sitting in a wooden wheelchair. Him. Okay? Him. I've lost my trail of thought. I'm just getting so wound up by season 8. Yeah, so Bran Stark sees everything, okay? So we see this massive build-up of the Night King being the biggest baddie ever. Okay, and Bran Stark going all the way up north, past the wall, going on this adventure of self-discovery with Hodor. There's a big thing with Hodor. Just remember, hold the door. Okay? And we expect that the Night King is going to be the be-all and end-all of everything good and holy, and that is going to be all. Are we there? Are we back? Are we back? That's it, we're back. It keeps dropping out with signal. So No, that wasn't the be all and end all. Okay, thanks for hanging around with that. So Cersei Lannister stays at home, of men, doesn't send her armies up to help defeat the White Walkers and the Night King. And yes, there is a humongous battle, dragons involved in everything, you see. Expecting there to be more battle end, but no, killed by Spider Monkey, and then jabs a dagger into his belly. Bearing in mind, spear into a dragon, and bearing in mind there's a great, maybe she got an hour and a half of being let down, of being, I tell you what last night's episode was. Last night's episode was like going to an expensive swanky restaurant and ordering the best lamb shank, okay, and then being presented with Aldi's microwavable alternative. That's what last night's Game of Thrones was. You see, you expect the world and you're given a microwave dish. That's what it was. So that's just my opinion. A lot of people may well love it, but I can't help but be disappointed with season 8 of Game of Thrones. And the things what makes it worse is there's only one more episode, then it's finished. There's no more. Okay, main characters died last night, deaded, gone, and they died in really shit way. I mean, to be fair, the only two that died in a shit way were Jaime and Cersei. Okay, I thought they would have been burned alive in an explosion with dragon fire, or eaten, or executed, but no, they had a building fall on them. Is what happened. They had a building fall on them. You had Varys, who's been in it since season 1, the bald eunuch. He died, was executed by, you know, Queen Targaryen. Oh yeah, Queen Daenerys Stormborn Targaryen, breaker of trains, lever of Starbucks coffee cups, is what she is. And Varys, all Varys wanted really was to see the kingdom ruled by an honest and fair person. And he learnt quite quickly that Daenerys Targaryen was not that ruler, considering her nephew, Jon Snow, who is Aegon Targaryen in real life, her nephew, who she's in love with. Yes, that's right, peeps. If you've not seen Game of Thrones, it's all about incest, and that's apparently a game for the whole family in Game of Thrones. Ew. But there we go. So it turns out he's the rightful heir to the throne, and she doesn't like that very much. No. So he says, I don't want the throne. I'm Jon Snow. I know nothing and I'm Jon Snow. Right? But it turns out Varys was executed because he found out Jon Snow's true lineage and that he is the rightful king, apparently. And she never liked that too. So he was executed for that. Okay. And then there's other people that know who Jon Snow is. Alright. Now remember, if you get pissed off with this video, I did declare it spoilers, and it says it in the title description. Spoilers. Okay. And Arya Stark, oh, she's alive. She's like, she rides off into the distance on a horse that was relatively unscathed, bearing in mind the whole city was reduced to ash at King's Landing. The Hound, there's a character called the Hound who you learn to love, really. He's quite easily one of the best characters in Game of Thrones. He's got half his face burnt off. Big thing with fire. Doesn't really like it too much. But he's an arsehole by nature. But he's actually a good person. He just doesn't like to admit it too much. He had the fight which personally myself I've been waiting for like since season 6. He fights his brother the Mountain. Also, Gregor is a human that had been killed who was turned into an obedient zombie, which is just weird. And he ends up having this epic fight with his brother, stabs him in the head, doesn't die, so he pretty much pushes him off the side of a building into a fiery pit below. That was actually quite a good scene. But this is what I think should have happened. Okay, that's what I think should have happened. I think what should have happened was everyone should have gone down south to regroup. Episode 1 and 2. Make sure Cersei sends her army. Okay. While everything's getting prepared army-wise, there's a bit of a coup where Daenerys ends up doing what she's doing and takes the city that way. And then with all the remaining forces, after everything's said and done, the White Walkers make their way south, and then they have the massive epic White Walker battle with the Night King. The Night King could still die, and then everyone finds out that maybe Daenerys isn't the queen she's cracked up to be, because she's turned out to be just like her father, the Mad King. And then Jon Snow, and this hasn't happened yet. You see, this is all just me saying what I think should have happened. Okay, but there's only one episode left, and Daenerys has actually turned into the Mad Queen because she's killed everyone. She's just ripped the King's Land into pieces. You see, she's used her one surviving dragon, and she's literally killed thousands of innocent people. She's turned into the Mad Queen, which is exactly what she was trying not to become. And what's going to happen in episode 6, the last episode, my prediction for episode 6, the last ever episode of Game of Thrones, okay, is Jon Snow, the bastard Jon Snow, the true king whose real name is Aegon Targaryen, will pull her up and go, "Hey, yo, Daenerys, you're my queen and all, but you know, you killed a lot of innocent people today, and I can't condone that sort of behaviour. I'm the rightful heir." What'll happen is she'll try and kill him with the dragon by saying "Dracarys" like that, right? And the dragon will come looming up over the camera, opening his mouth and go, "Ah," like that, right? And then Jon Snow will say something or do something, and the dragon will show nothing but respect to him, because the dragon will know that Jon Snow is a good person and that he did not want to kill anyone. The dragons are noble creatures, is what they are. They're not stupid. So I reckon that will happen. He will take control of the dragon. The remaining Unsullied, who will try and stay loyal to Daenerys, there'll be a little battle between them and a few others, the Dothraki maybe, and then even them, they will realise that she was a no good piece of work at the end of it, just like her old man. And then they'll all fall into line, and there'll be a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a battle, and it will turn out that Jon Snow will be the one to sit on the Iron Throne, is what it will be. And then he'll sit there on the Iron Throne with his sword in his hand, just like the iconic picture back in season 1, where Sean Bean sat on the Iron Throne, leaning on his sword. Yeah. And then it will end, and it will go dun 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 dun. Game of Thrones season 8 was a letdown, was a letdown, was a letdown. That's what I'm guessing. That's what I'm guessing. I mean, you know, it's just I waited 2 years for only 6 episodes. And like I was talking to my mate last night, because he was talking to me about it before I actually saw it, without spoiling anything for me. Alright, he just said to me that it was lazy script writing, because it's the last season, they're not going to make any more. It's lazy script writing, and to a degree, yes it was. it was lazy script writing, and there is only one episode left, and I hope they can pull it out the bag. But to be fair, it's been very, very, very predictable, as in astonishingly predictable. I always knew that she'd turn into the Mad Queen, and that's exactly what she's done. So anyway, if you are a fan of Game of Thrones and you feel let down by the video, not the video, by Game of Thrones itself, then tell me why. Tell me why you're let down with Game of Thrones this season for the last season. Tell me what got you into Game of Thrones. Give me in the comment section down below your opinion on what you think may happen next week Monday on the last episode. Tell me what you think. What is your prediction for the grand finale of Game of Thrones? If it's your first time joining me and you don't mind my dulcet tones, then smash that subscribe button, give a video a share. There's plenty of videos for you to sink your teeth into. Believe me, this thing started on Facebook. So you know, find another video, give that a watch, give it a share, get my viewing numbers up. You know, I'll thank you for it, I promise. And yeah, happy Tuesday, have a great day.